So the recipient access table's kind of fun. This is another filter, and this is something we would place in our public listener. So we've got the internet, we've got our firewall. Let's assume that that's source fire. The firewall is configured to do some NAT, it's got an ACL, and it's going to let TCP traffic come in and hit our ESA back here. When it does, remember that there's connection limits based on things like the IP address, sender base score, etc. Well, we can also define who it is that we even want to allow email for. If an email shows up, and I know there's a lot of spammers out there, if it's not my domain, I don't think I even want it. So when we create this recipient access table, we're basically defining, hey, ESA, if you see this domain name, this partial domain, this username, or this full email address, he's like, yeah, ... then what? Remember, this is our if condition. If you see this, then take this action. And again, it's just a simple accept or reject, but this gives us the ability to say, hey, when you see emails coming into anybody at cisco.com, go ahead and allow it. The recipient access table, similar to other tables, is going to be processed from top down. LDAP accept queries can be bypassed, and what this has to do is verifying that users actually exist. So maybe somebody has got an email for Bob at notes.juliet.com, and we query an LDAP server, and we're like, hey, is Bob here? And you're like, hello, LDAP server, it's not responding. So that's all that we're saying when we talk about LDAP queries. We can query an authentication server in the back end just to make sure that somebody actually lives here. If they don't live here, we reject the connection. This is smart in the sense of email filtering, but this is something that attackers could use for user enumeration. That's used for password spraying. You figure out who all the user accounts are in a company, and then you come back and use a specific password like spring 2020 ? And you just try it across every user in the company. This is where we pull those user accounts from. So again, just a scenario of if you're doing something with recipient access, look at what happens when it's a valid user versus an invalid user. Do we want to give really verbose messages back out to people? Depends on your threat model. So we've got business partners called mypartner.com and myotherpartner.au. And we say, hey, you know what? Anytime we see traffic coming from them, maybe we want to go ahead and allow it. So in this case, what we're doing is we're building a recipient access table. The recipient address, notes.juliet.com. The action, accept. Just that simple. So here it is. If it's coming from this server, accept. If it's coming from this server, accept. If it's coming from anybody else, reject. So leveraging LDAP for checking recipients, remember that the ESA can query an external authentication server just to make sure that that user lives there. And then we can define how the recipient email address of an incoming email message should be handled. Again, just a basic accept or reject. So what we see here is for our recipient access table says if it's exchange, if it's notes, accept, all other reject. And then what we're basically doing is querying, and we're saying, hey, does Juliet live here? And they say, Juliet, yes. John, no. That's it, right? So just querying the backend server to make sure that the email that's coming in, it's intended for a specific recipient. Just want to make sure that that recipient's actually valid.